Hello, brick sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and today I want to talk to you about stud reversal. Now, stud reversal is a super handy technique where you can change the direction of the studs. And I've done videos on the past on stud reversal, but I did one on how to make stud reversals with just plates and bricks. And I made these kind of French cleat-like designs, which turned out pretty cool. But today I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about just how small of a stud reversal can we make, and what are the best pieces for micro stud reversals. This is also about the smallest stud reversal you can do with just bricks and plates, unless you find a different one. I also did this one too. Now, before I dive too deep in, I want to cover a couple of stud reversals that I know you all are going to ask about, but are technically illegal. The first one, the cheese slope method. Yes, I'm sure by now the internet has informed you on how this works. You can stick cheese slopes in the corners of your plates or bricks and do a stud reversal. So you now have studs facing outward on both sides. Super handy technique, super cool and creative, but technically illegal. Now the next one, which is very similar but a little bit thinner, the bucket handle method. Take a plate, stick some bucket handles in it like this, and you can take a second plate and stick it right on top. Very thin, very effective, very illegal. Now, I should also mention, every time I mention something being illegal in a Lego video, somebody asks, how can it be illegal? Illegal is kind of a slang term in the Lego world for saying it's not a legitimate connection. It stresses out the pieces. It's not Lego approved. For most people, it doesn't really matter. Do whatever you want with your Lego stuff. But if you're wondering why I'm saying illegal, that's why. On the note of illegal, let's talk really, really illegal. Like this one. I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this. These tubes inside these old axle bricks have a very special secret. And this is nothing that I've discovered. But if you cut them open like this, which I've taken the liberty of doing in the name of Lego science, you can extract these little red tubes. There's 3 of them in there. One of them is slightly longer than the other, the one that goes through the middle. But these tubes have a very unique characteristic. They are the correct diameter to fit in the bottom of a brick or plate. Now, I'll caution you, this is a little bit dangerous of a game to play, because once you start doing this, you'll probably not want to stop. It is definitely illegal. But you can basically do any sort of stud connection you want using this. So you can take really any brick you want, connect them in any way you want, upside down, and make a perfect connection. Very illegal. I don't know if it's just because of having to cut these apart or the tolerances on the parts, but I know it's not really allowed. Anyway, with those aside, let's talk about some methods of incredibly small stud reversals that are legal. And now I should also say there's kind of 2 different ways to define small. When we're talking stud reversal, small could mean the smallest piece of stud reversal that will fit pieces on it. Small could also mean the thinnest overall connection, meaning this is quite thin, it's only 2 plates. But could we go thinner? Possibly. So let's go through some methods here and talk about them one by one. First one is super effective and super commonly known, and that is the finger joint method. Because this is only 1 plate thick, it makes for a very nice 1 plate wide stud reversal if you alternate the pieces. Now, in terms of this being considered small, widthwise, it's very small. Lengthwise, it's not. So again, there's a couple different definitions of how we can look at small, but we can do a stud reversal just like that. Pretty cool. If we wanted to make the overall piece a little smaller, we could do it with bar and clip and just have 1 stud on each side, but these are not 1 plate thick. They have this funky offset. It's probably not the best method to do, but it is a stud reversal. It's similar and it's a little more compact. Now, if we get creative with the 5 long plates, there is a piece that we can make even thinner. This one here. Now, depending on the application, this may or may not work for you, but these have the Technic Plus in the middle, so you could take 2 of these 5 long rounded edges plates and stud reverse them like that, as long as you can get away with this post not being in the way of what you're building. you have a 2-plate thick stud reversal that is legal, just like this one. Going further outside of that, if we talk about very small pieces, we could get into bars. Here's a really little bar. This is the smallest bar piece that LEGO currently makes, and it's 2 bricks wide, or 40 LDU. Now, there's lots of different things you can do with this. You need anything with a hollow stud, like these. You can connect them. Depending on the application, you could push these together as well, but pieces will stick out. You could go even smaller and do 1x1s on there. And you could push these in also if you were just going to put like bricks on the end and you had room for these bars to hide inside whatever you're sticking it to. You could also do an anti-stud version where you have the anti-studs facing outward. These are all good stud reversals that are quite small. Now, right now I'm going to cover basically all of the stud out versions. I'm going to do anti-stud next. We'll get there, just hang tight. Now, one thing with this bar piece, if we are going to do this and we can't have the bar stick out, so if we just go to the ends of the bar, this is not super effective because it is the exact same dimensions as the lightsaber hilt, which is already a stud reversal. So fantastic stud reversal piece. It basically creates the same thing as what I just did here with 3 pieces if you're looking to do that method. Technically, there is a bar that's a little bit shorter than this, but you have to be really creative and think outside the box. And that is the lipstick piece. The lipstick piece is on both sides. Let's see if I can get a good shot of this. Just a tiny bit shorter. So you can make it a little bit shorter. Now this one's angled, so that may get in the way of what you're doing, but it is a little bit smaller bar piece than this, but very similar. If we're talking of just a straight snot brick that will do stud reversal, we have the 2 opposing side brick, which is a great stud reversal, 2.5 plates thick. So not bad, but that's the smallest brick that will do stud reversal that I could find. One of the most common stud reversal pieces is the chainsaw. Now the chainsaw is unique because it has 2 studs facing opposite, and this is 1 brick thick here. So I can take a couple chainsaws, I can put them between some plate, just like that, and you can do a stud reversal with this. So that piece overall is not the smallest piece, but width-wise, that's one of the smallest pieces for stud reversal if you're talking width, not overall piece size. Now there are other pieces that do the exact same thing as the chainsaw, so you're not limited to just the chainsaw. A few of them here would be this 3-way piece, right angle piece, the ray gun. Now this front piece will get in the way, so you have to be careful of that if you're going to use this for stud reversal. This kind of buzzsaw blade will do the same thing. And one of my favorites, the door. Yes, the door handle here is 1 brick thick. They do thicken it up for the handle portion, but it is a stud reversal. Don't know if you're going to want to hide all that massive amount of door in between whatever you're building, but that is a stud reversal nonetheless, and it is the same thickness as the chainsaw piece. Now, one that I've recently been informed about, and I'm really excited about because I think it has so many cool applications, is the tiny little wheel. These are typically landing gear for small aircraft. They also make this version. And when you pull these out, take the tires off if they have them, this piece here is perfect for stud reversal. Let me show you. Now you might be saying you have little pins sticking on each side, but almost everything that you would connect with this has a recessed spot for a pin. So you can put these together like this, and you have a stud reversal. Overall, this is probably one of the smallest singular stud reversal pieces if we're just talking size of the overall piece. Now it is technically thicker than the chainsaw piece. I measured it, I want to say this is actually 9 LDU, so 1 LDU wider than a plate. I'm not 100% on that. Let me know below if you know the actual LDU of this micro wheel piece. but it is definitely wider than a plate. You can see right here. But a fantastic stud reversal piece nonetheless. Now the next one here is one of my favorites and is super popular, and that is this piece. This little double-sided stud reversal on a 1x1. And these are great. You can put them sideways like this. You do have a little 1x1 brick that could get in the way, but just a natural stud reversal like that. You can use multiple of them, of course, and that is also 1 plate thick. So it's hard to say who is definitively the smallest because, again, there's different ways to measure smallest in this category. So that's why I'm giving you lots of different examples. But between the chainsaw piece and its friends, this piece here and the micro wheel, I think one of those would win for studs facing out stud reversal. Let's go ahead and talk about anti-stud reversals. Now there's lots of different things you can use for anti-stud reversal, and Technic works really well for this category. Now this is quite a large piece, but I grabbed it because it's 1 plate thick. Some of you are probably going to tell me this is illegal. It might be, it might not, I don't know. Probably is. I don't use Technic stuff much, but you can stick them like that and have a 1 plate thick stud reversal on both sides for anti-stud. Little smaller version here would be this one. You could do something like maybe a jumper on this in the middle. Again, 1 plate thick, a little bit smaller. Similar to what we did here with the 2 opposing sides of the brick, you can do one with a Technic hole, and that will have the ability to mount pieces on the outsides. It is a smaller piece, 2.5 plates thick, but overall a fairly small piece. So this is all going to come down to the application. Even a little smaller than that, we could use this Technic pin connector. I guess it's not a pin connector because it's short. I don't know what you call this, but it's the short version of a pin connector. But yeah, this will do a great stud reversal as well in a nice compact way. Very similar to this. It's the same width, just a little bit smaller. One of my favorite stud reversals is using the bottle topper or the nipple piece and a 1x1 with hollow stud, just like that. 2 plates thick, but ultra compact. This has so many good applications and so much decorative stuff you can do with this application. So that's one of the winners for sure when you're talking ultra small stud reversal. Similar to that, you can also use the clips. I believe if you use the older style clip where these aren't actually curved, but they're just straight of the same piece, that it is illegal because they don't have flex. But the newer ones, I do believe this is a legal connection. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's a nice stud reversal there. It is 3 plates thick, but still pretty small and compact, and it kind of fits well into this family here. Now, I don't have the buddy piece for this because it's brand new, but I have seen it, and I need to get my hands on some. But this piece here, the minifig accessory piece, they now make a version of this where instead of a bar on this side, they have a clip, just like one of these white clips, and you could stud reverse that. I don't have the other piece, but that's another one you should add to the list because that's a great application. I need to get some of those new pieces. One of the most common anti-stud stud reversals, and one of my personal favorites that I use all the time, is the donut piece. The donut piece is unique because it fits a stud down inside and will make this really narrow. So we have a 2 plate wide anti-stud reversal with a lot of good surface area for grabbing pieces. That is a fantastic technique that I use quite often. You can do the same thing with a 2x2 jumper and a donut piece. Or if you want to make it smaller, you can do a 1x1 round in the middle or a 1x1 square. Now the one you're probably all waiting for, because it's probably the most commonly talked about when you're talking compact small stud reversals, is the One Ring, the Lord of the Rings ring. And unfortunately, I only have one because they only ever made one. I'm just kidding. I got a bunch of them. This is a great piece and so much you can do with it, but you can stick pieces in the sides. If you want them to fit flusher, you are going to want to make sure you have hollow studs because the Lego logo will get in the way. Like if you see here, this is going to sit a little further apart because the stupid Lego logo on top, I wish Lego would fix that, makes it not fit all the way together. But this is arguably the smallest stud reversal piece in Lego. Now it is an anti-stud reversal, but not much else can beat that because right there you have two anti-studs facing outward. That piece is an absolute winner. They are quite expensive because they only make them as the one ring. I wish they would release this in more colors. I don't think they have at this point, but that really should be more widespread and more wide used in Lego. Fantastic piece nonetheless. There are a few relatives to that if you don't have that piece or don't want to afford that piece. One that I thought was fun was the handcuff piece. And we could take like a 3x1 plate, put them like this, put a second one on top. We'll give you a little carry handle for it. But that's a nice stud reversal. It's not the strongest because these are gummy, so you could kind of pull this out if you wanted to. But it is a cool stud reversal, and it is very similar to the ring piece. Also, if you have the ability to hide it, this is basically the exact same piece, the wrench piece, but it has a handle on it. So similar to the chainsaw, if you work it in there effectively, you can hide the handle and use it like the ring piece. So there's lots of different ways to do this. One goal I had, I worked on this video last night and I spent a few hours just racking my brain over how small could I go, how small could I go? And my goal was not necessarily to be small in overall size, but thin. To me, thin means small. The effective width of the piece to means the smallest stud reversal. And my goal was to see if I could get something really thin. Like, for example, these hinge pieces. The top of this is believed to be 2 LDU wide. So a quarter of the width of a plate in width. So if I could figure out how to stud reverse that, that would be huge. Now it would probably involve at least 2 of them, if not more, and they'd start to get wide and funky and have to connect them. I couldn't make it work out. Then I thought, well, maybe brackets. Brackets are twice the width. These are 4 LDU wide, which is half the width of a plate, 8 LDU wide. And I thought, well, maybe I could do it with brackets. And I played around with techniques, and I just wanted to get 4 LDU wide with studs on both sides, and I couldn't figure it out. But then I found the piece. And you guys might be saying, well, yeah, I knew that all along. But I didn't. So I learned this for this video, and I'm so happy I did, because there is a piece out there that will do 4 LDU, studs on both sides, and it's this piece. Kind of. Well, it's this piece's older brother. You see, this is the newer version of this piece. But back in the day, this is what it looked like. And you can see one difference. It's quite a bit thinner in the middle. It's actually, in fact, half the width. So this top portion is the same width as a bracket, 4 LDU, and will do the effective same maneuver that other piece will. Now, they're a little less common because they're old. Luckily, I have no shortage of old Lego because I still have all my childhood stuff. So yes, technically, at least from what I found, this is the narrowest, skinniest, thinnest stud reversal piece out there that I could find. Maybe you know a different one, maybe you have a different technique or a better one. Let me know in the comments, because part of the reason I do these videos is so that I can learn as well. Hopefully you guys learned a few things. Hopefully you picked up a few techniques in this. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. I'll do more just like this in the future. That's all I got for this time, and we will see you next time.